91.3 WVKR, Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. You're tuned into Local Motion. I'm your host, Rita Ryan, here each and every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. We just heard Dayna Kurtz, and that was one of 4 tracks we're going to play. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Raise the Last Glass. Now, we are lucky enough to have Dayna Kurtz on the phone with us. Dayna, are you there?
I am. Hi.
Hi. So nice to have you on the show. It's very rare that nowadays I talk to like a first timer, but you're a first timer on this show. So I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Let me do a brief intro, if I may. I'll start off by saying New York Post says Dayna Kurtz's diverse vocals feel both old and new, recalling Nina Simone of yesteryear, hypnotically haunting. Offbeat says Kurtz has a total mastery of the dynamics of ballad singing. She brings the kind of substance to her vocals characteristic of a great gospel singer. Dayna Kurtz was nominated for 5 Best of the Beat Offbeat Awards in 2016, including Songwriter of the Year. She's toured and opened for many musicians, including Elvis Costello, Richard Thompson, Mavis Staples, B.B. King, Dr. John, just to name a few. And she'll be performing here in the Hudson Valley at the legendary Town Crier. On Saturday, September 4th, we'll be giving away a pair of tickets to that show to one lucky listener right after this conversation. And with that, a warm welcome to Local Motion, Ms. Dayna Kurtz.
Hey, what a nice introduction. I appreciate that.
Well, you deserve it. You know, I became a fan. I was telling you when we just off air, I became a fan because another DJ introduced me to you, both Stuart Hill, Bill Murray, but they call him Stuart Hall, and from WWOZ. And Susan Shaw from up here in the Hudson Valley, and they're like, you got to go see Dayna, you got to go see her. And you've played the Falcon a few times, and I remember going to see you and became completely mesmerized by your stage presence and your beautiful vocals and your demeanor. So you are such a wonderful performer, and I hope you fill the house at the Town Crier. We'll talk more about that show. I always like to go back in time a little bit, if you don't mind, and saying this is your musical life, Dayna Kurtz. And so you're born from New Jersey. You're from the Northeast here, yeah?
Yeah, I'm from the Jersey Shore. The North Jersey Shore, like Matawan, near Seabright.
Oh, okay. I used to live in West Long Branch, so I'm kind of... Yeah.
Monmouth County.
County. Yeah. When did music come into your life? Were you like in school doing music? Musical family? What's your background? Where did it all get started?
I was musical. Nobody in my immediate family was. There was a piano in the house, and my grandma and her whole family were musical. It just the gene skipped a generation and, kissed me on the nose.
Yeah.
But when I was really, really young, I was one of those kids who sang before I talked, and I was singing, like making up songs on the piano and stuff like that. And I, could pick up any instrument and noodle around on it. And then I was given lessons, which almost destroyed my love of music.
Oh, no. What lessons on what? Like piano?
Yeah, I was given classical piano lessons and by a very strict classical musician, and I hated them, and I couldn't read music. I sort of faked it for a very long time. I had a really good ear, and classical people don't really value that in those students. They sort of more value you being able to, to read what's in front of you and follow and have discipline, and I was terrible at all of that. So I gave up music for a long time, and then dug out my, everyone should have a big sister who begs for a guitar and then doesn't play it, and it's stuck in her closet when she goes to college.
Oh, nice.
And so I picked it up and taught myself how to play and started writing songs.
Wow. What were you listening to?
A combination. I'm the youngest by a lot. My brother and sister are 8 and 6 years older. So, of course, everything they listened to in the 70s. So that was pretty lucky.
Yeah.
My brother was classic rock and my sister was the great songwriters of the 70s and soul. She was a big soul fan, a lot of Stevie Wonder and Jackson 5.
So you got a nice encyclopedia of music there.
It was pretty great, actually. And my parents were classical and musical theater and jazz fans, so I kind of got it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, did you play or part of any groups in high school, like in the chorus or anything, or did you do?
Yeah, I was in my musicals and plays, and sang in chorus, and in madrigals, which is kind of like the elite chorus of the 12 kids who get together and sing all the kind of four-part, more complicated stuff. Yeah, I did a lot of that. It was really, I'm glad I did, because my choir teacher was she was a stickler for singing correctly, and to have that drummed in your head when you wind up screaming in front of rock and roll bands years ahead, like, probably saved me surgery, She cared.
Yeah. I talked to so many different people, and so many people that going back to those school years, they usually had one teacher or a private lesson teacher, and that is the person that got it all going, and that just got them on their path. And it's amazing how that happens. It really is. It's always heartwarming to hear that, some of these teachers really do have quite an effect on these students out there. That's for sure. So
yeah, I mean, I'd kind of well been on the path, but she was one of the first ones that demanded kind of excellence that I wanted to please. You know how that is?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, she was just sort of, that sort of stuff is so important as a kid. Great teachers, they're just so extraordinary. I so appreciate teachers more now than ever.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Talk about songwriting. When did you start that? Same time as you started picking up the guitar?
No, that was a little bit later. I was maybe 16, 17. I started hanging out with a bunch of Unitarian, groovy hippie kids,
mm-hmm.
and they wrote poetry and music and played music and stuff like that. It kind of doesn't occur to you to do things, or it didn't occur to me to do things until I knew peers could do it. Like, it didn't occur to me that I could write my own song until I met people my age who were doing it. Like, up until that point, I was like, no, that's stuff James Taylor does.
Wow. Yeah.
And then a friend did it, and I was like, oh, I write poetry. Why can't I do this? So
yeah. Did you play out? Like, did you do open mics or anything like that when you were just starting out?
Yeah, well, this youth group that I was in had coffee houses, which
mm-hmm.
were kind of our own version of open mics or talent shows or whatever. And that was kind of my first audience. But then I started, I did gigs for tourists on the Jersey Shore sometimes. It paid a lot. Like,
mm-hmm.
I mean, it paid like $50.
Mm-hmm.
It probably still pays $50.
Right.
But in 1982, $50 was like, your friends worked every day after school at McDonald's and didn't make that.
Right. And you were doing something that you loved and just,
Yeah, and I got, free food, and they'd, sometimes be nice and let me have a sip of a drink,
Yeah.
Well, they'd be illegal and let me have a sip of a drink. But yeah, it was pretty good school. I played James Taylor and Beatles songs for drunk tourists. I had like a big book of the greatest soft hits of the 70s.
Oh, nice. Well, so what did you do after high school?
I went to UMass Amherst, and I studied history, but took a lot of music classes because there was a great jazz department there.
Yeah.
And not kind of theory, technical classes, but more history and performance classes, because I still am functionally illiterate. I couldn't take the heavy things. And I played some there and a little bit after, and it didn't, like I was like a struggling songwriter with a whole bunch of really great artists at the time that were living in the area. Martin Sexton, like Massachusetts was kind of a thing in the
Boston.
In the early 90s. Like, there was just a bunch of us that came out of the same scene. Jonathan Brooke, Amy Speece went to Amherst, like right around the time I graduated UMass. Dar Williams was there. There were like a lot of really great singer-songwriters. And and so we kind of started there, but I was struggling there, and I wound up moving to New York and touring the South a lot, which just always wound up being better for me.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't, New England was harder.
Yeah. And you made your way to a city that's on my bucket list. You have no idea. New Orleans. So I can't wait till the numbers go down and it's a little safer to go. But I mean, tell me about New Orleans. I mean, I know you're there part of the year, and how you first got there and why you went there.
I went there on my very first tour, which was a Southern tour, and it was in 1990.
Wow.
And I met somebody, like it wasn't well booked because I really didn't know how to book a tour. And I met a woman who promoted one of my shows who bought an inexpensive apartment on what was then a very scruffy side of town. Mm-hmm. And she gave me the keys for a couple weeks to write. I had like so much time off that I like wound up staying there for a couple weeks. And I'd never had this experience before. I basically landed in town. I didn't know where else to go, so I went to the French Quarter like everybody does, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any friends there yet. And I walked there, and I was like, I've lived here before. It was a really happy life, and
wow.
I want to live here again.
Wow.
And wow. I don't even believe in reincarnation, but it was just, I knew my way around really fast, and I'm like terrible at directions, and it's not an easy city to find your way around in. It's not a well laid, it's not a logically laid out place like New York.
Really?
And,
wow.
Yeah, I felt really at home there. They felt like my people. Like I was like, oh, this is it.
This is where I want to be.
People, they literally dance in the streets.
That's
like
cool.
You stand online at the supermarket and a good song comes on, and a good song often comes on because people actually play really good music in the supermarkets in New Orleans. Oh. They play Zydeco and stuff. Oh. And people will start dancing or singing along. Alan Toussaint comes on, and like half the people will be singing or doing a little dance or smiling at each other, and you're just like, it's a place where music matters. That I don't think it matters very many places in America.
Wow. Wow, that is so cool. And you've got such a killer independent radio station down there that I listen to very often, WWOZ from New Orleans. You can get the app, you can get it online. That's how I listen to it. And it's just so much fun. It's a great station, and everything New Orleans and all the venues that are down there. And geez, it's just like your reaction to it. I've been wanting to go. I'm telling you, I've been all over the place, but I've never been to New Orleans, and it's like
well, then you must.
I must.
You must.
So you landed there, and you're like, "This is it. I'm staying here." And
then it took me, like 20 years to get there. But it's a very long and convoluted story, which I'm not sure you want, but I wanted to move there almost right away, and it took me a while to kind of work up the nerve and figure out a plan. Mm-hmm. And in the meanwhile, I would go. I was doing 2 Southern tours at least a year because it was where I was doing best, and I'd always route down there and play if I could, or just hang out if I couldn't, and I would spend more and more time there every year.
Right.
The 1 week stopover became the 1 month stopover, and I made a lot of friends there, and kind of developed this life there. But in 1999, I wound up getting stuck in New York in a lovely way. I met my first husband and married him, and I was very happy and in love. So I wound up staying in Brooklyn, which is where he was working. But I had been on my way to move to New Orleans in 1999.
And then you got sidetracked for a little bit.
And then I got sidetracked for a while.
Yeah.
And we divorced rather amicably, very amicably. He's still one of my closest friends, and he's my publisher. And
that's awesome. Good for you.
And when we finally had the conversation, we're not supposed to grow old together, he looked at me and said, "You're moving to New Orleans, aren't you?" And I was like, "Tomorrow."
Oh, man.
I love you. I'll see you. I'm gone.
Doesn't get any better than that, I'm telling you. Just to have something so sweet, so amicable. And then you're down in New Orleans. Now, I know you have quite a following. You've done a lot in the Netherlands and in Europe as well. How'd you go from New Orleans to Europe?
Well, I was still living in New York, and my first record came out here, and I was looking at labels in Europe to see if I could get it licensed over there, and I sent it. I think I sent it because I saw that Mary Gauthier was being licensed by them at the time.
Ah, okay.
I was like, oh, okay, she's, I was like, oh, she's really good, and she's kind of in my neighborhood of what we do, and blah blah blah. And so I sent them a CD, and they really, really loved it, and they wound up being just super enthusiastic. And then it it was just one of those weird things. It did really well. It randomly, it went to the charts, and I was on TV, and it was a bit of a big deal. Like, it was like a critical success.
Wow.
And, yeah, it was really fun. It was I tell this to every musician I know, like, just find some small country that treats you like a rock star for a minute. And just so you know you had that.
Right. Right. And in the
really
Netherlands,
nice.
this
really
was
nice
it.
To leave it somewhere when you leave.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But I'm also not, I'm not famous there. Like, I was talked about for a little while. I'm kind of a one-hit wonder. So, but it's enough to keep you having a following.
And
I
what
keep
was
going
the
back,
song?
And they're lovely people, and I just really enjoy it.
And what was the song that was the hit over there?
It was "Love Gets in the Way."
Ah, okay.
And then,
that's on my list to play.
On my next record, I did a cover of Prince's "Joy in Repetition" that did pretty well there, and it started kind of. It was very, it was like a lot at once in the Netherlands, and then it just became kind of slow build on everything else. But the Europe has a lot more money for arts, and it's just even at the same level, like in Germany, I'm not any more known than I am in America, really. But it's still like there's more money to pay artists, and you get put up and they feed you and
actually take care of you the way it's supposed to be.
Sell your name right on the marquee, and somebody else arranges all the press for you, and so it winds up being like, so you're doing the same kind of touring that you are as a smaller artist in America, but it's just a little easier.
Are there any two happier places on the planet than New Orleans and Amsterdam?
Yeah, there are. Dublin's really happy.
What is?
Dublin's pretty happy.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, and Amsterdam is actually, I would not call Amsterdam a happy town. It's not a sad town, but it's, the Dutch are very no-nonsense sort of people.
Well, I see. I grew up in Germany, so I'm like 5 kilometers. I grew up on the border, like 5 kilometers away from the Netherlands. And
my God, what town?
Winterswijk was Winterswijk in Dutch, and then I grew up in Frieden in Germany, which is by Düsseldorf, where I fly to Amsterdam. But when I was growing up, and still whenever I go, my family's all there. It's night and day going the 5 kilometers into the Netherlands than it is in Germany. So when you say that about the Dutch, I think that about the Germans, like no nonsensical, very pragmatic, just like and to me the Dutch always have seemed lively and just, I don't know, into the arts, and I mean, I don't know, it's just, I guess it's just...
I absolutely understand the connection. And Amsterdam is a looser city than most of the Netherlands, except for some places in the south where the Catholics are, because you need Catholics for people who laugh a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just the rule.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love it. Now, you've also toured around. I mean, listen, the incredible Norah Jones got wind of your music. How did Norah Jones catch on to your music?
We were part of the same scene, like in the living room in the 90s was in New York City was just this nurturing, lovely singer-songwriter scene. You never realize you're part of a scene until you're out of it. But Regina Spektor was part of it, and Richard Julian, like just really great writers were like hanging out with each other and being nice to each other, and she really liked my music, and I heard her voice and I was like, holy shit, this girl and is amazing. And when she broke really big, she like kind of like was very generous singing on everybody's records and stuff at the time.
Because she went back to those days, yeah.
But she's lovely, and her voice is kind of. I like to tell people about that session because we did a duet, and and at the time she was like that record was starting to go insane. And I was listening to it, and I absolutely understood why she was resonating with people so strongly at a time when people were so freaked out around 2001.
Right.
And it was because her voice is like, it's like Valium or something. It's like you could pick, like, Marvin Gaye's record. Marvin Gaye's voice was like this too. It's it's like you could pick up the needle and plop it down on any point in the record, and there would be nothing jarring, but at the same time it kind of goes right to your soul and just makes every cell in your body relax.
That's a really good way to describe Nora. Absolutely.
It's some kind of weird mojo that you either got or you don't. And she is just like, and I was just sitting there like kind of melting into my chair, and she was singing in my ear, and I was like, everything's going to be okay.
So she was like a guest on your album then, right? In 2004?
Yeah, she was a guest on my album. Yeah,
wow.
It was very, very sweet of her to do.
Oh, that's wonderful. And and Bonnie Raitt too, another powerhouse of a lady.
Yeah, she's lovely. A friend of mine who's a really good friend of hers played her a song, and she said very nice things. And and I'm like, she puts this is how cool Bonnie is. Bonnie puts artists that she likes that a lot of people don't know who they are on her pre-show reel on purpose,
that's
so that
wonderful.
people like Shazam it and find them. I've actually had a lot of fans who said they've heard me because she plays a couple of my songs. She's played a couple of my songs over the years in her pre-show mix.
Bravo! I love when
she's just like that. She just is the nicest person in the whole world.
Yeah,
she's just as nice as you imagine her being. If you've never met her.
I do. I've never met her, and she just seems like one cool woman. Just like
she's lovely,
super, super cool, and just kind and generous, and just
classy,
all of that.
Classy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Capital K, classy.
Absolutely. And now New Orleans, come on, Dr. John. You opened up with him, or was on a stage with him, or how did all of that happen?
Not in New Orleans, and it was before I moved to New Orleans. I got offered to do a 3-show run with him in the Northeast.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was really wonderful, and it wound up. There were a couple of guys in his band that are now friends of mine in New Orleans. I kind of wound up meeting really nice people through it, and he was, he was Dr. John. He was terrifying. I'd never met a person like that in my life. Terrifying, man.
Oh God!
And he milks it. You're sitting there like as a artist acolyte, and you're just like he just like kind of growls something nonsensical at you and walks into the room, and you can tell he's like laughing to himself because he's mess with your head,
Right. He's just having fun with it all. Yeah. And then B.B. King too. Wow, that must have been. How did that come about? I always love hearing the stories like that time with him.
That was such a long time. I was really, really young. I was in my 20s, and it was a one-off. Somebody at a local, it was somewhere in Western Mass. I don't know if the venue's still there anymore, but it was a small auditorium. And I was just starting to book gigs out of town, and someone booked or assistant booked this venue and liked my cassette. And I sent it to them.
Oh, man.
And he'd offered me a few gigs, and I opened up for B.B. King and I opened up for Ladysmith Black Mambazo there. God, I can't remember the name of the place. They offered me Meatloaf, which I could not do, which I kind of wish I had just to say I opened up for Meatloaf.
Yeah, that would have been something for sure. Wow.
It would have been wrong. It would have been really bad night for me, I'm sure.
But one to write in the record books and one to remember, that's for sure. That would have been something else. Now, how many albums have you recorded? You've got quite a few out there.
I don't know. I haven't counted in a while. Not that many. I'm like kind of a once every, 2 to 3 years kind of person. I guess I'm getting old, so that adds up.
Yeah, absolutely. How has this past year and a half been for you musically as far as creativity?
This is a conversation I've been having with a lot of my artist friends because I'm very curious to see how people are processing this. Mm-hmm. And my artist friends are like my songwriter friends in particular are completely divided into. Mm-hmm. And on the one side are people who froze, like they just can't process like it just is kind of like, holy shit.
Right.
Shoot. Sorry.
That's
I'm on
okay.
radio. I call myself, though. I'm very proud of myself. It's been a minute since I've done an interview, and I curse like a sailor in real life. So, and it's just a lot to process, and didn't write at all, and kind of like had a bit of an identity crisis, maybe about not working, or kind of like just sort of froze, like just sort of went, ooh, okay, and just started doing something else entirely. Like, I can't think about this stuff, and the other half are on fire,
right?
And I'm the former kind. I stopped. Like, I was in the middle of a whole bunch of stuff. It kind of kicked my butt in busy season. And so and I was, getting ready to put out a record with my new band, and everything was, kind of sailing along, and it was like a kind of shell shock.
Right.
And a lot of my friends kind of respond, are like, yeah, me too.
Right.
It's like, and some of them are starting to crawl out of it. I see a lot of my friends are starting to write, and I'm starting to think about writing, so that usually means something's coming.
Now, the music you were going to have coming out, is that coming out, like, soon, or?
It is. I'm going to put it out. Jazz Fest was canceled, and we were playing, I was going to put it out in festival season initially in 2020, and so now the October rescheduling is not happening, and we're back to April in New Orleans for Jazz Fest and French Quarter Fest and all that stuff. So I'm probably going to release it around that in March.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell me about your new band.
Oh, Lulu and the Broadsides. It's my favorite thing I've ever done.
I love the video that you sent. So nice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the guys I'm playing with are some of the most extraordinary musicians in town, which, means some of the most extraordinary musicians in the world, because it's New Orleans. And they slum and play nasty, dirty, mid-century R&B and blues with me, and I've been writing songs for the lead singer as if she's somebody else, but they actually have wound up being quite honest songs that could fit in my catalog.
Love it.
Quite easily.
Lulu and the Broadsides. What a great...
Lulu and the Broadsides. Yes, I love this band to death. Like, they are just such extraordinary players. I can't, I pinch myself all the time that I am allowed to sing with these guys.
Oh, man. Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool.
It's been really fun writing songs for us, and they're really fun gigs, and everybody dances. It's just it's because it's New Orleans and people dance when music is danceable, and it's just super fun.
I think that's just amazing. Dayna, when was the last live show you played?
I did a few in June before Delta started locking everybody up again.
Yeah.
I did did I do the Falcon? No, I didn't. I did a house concert, a concert in an orchard.
Oh, nice.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I'm really, like, the outdoor shows have been kind of lovely. And when I was in New Orleans last spring, and things were starting to ease up a bit, and people were starting to get a little less terrified, and people were getting vaccinated and all that, there were a lot of outdoor shows happening. Like, people were kind of turning their backyards into speakeasies, but were being careful, you know?
Right.
And outside of bars, so it was safer than congregating inside, and people were dancing on the streets and stuff. It was kind of special.
That is kind of special.
I'm going to look back on the gigs that I did do during all this very fondly.
Yeah, I'm sure, because there's not that many of them. But now you're coming back to the Hudson Valley, to Town Crier. Have you been there before?
I was trying to remember that. I think I might have. Did Richie Havens play there?
Yes.
On the regular, I think I played there with Richie once or twice, because I toured with him a lot, and that would have been, that would have been one of the venues at some point, I'm sure I played.
Yeah, so Town Crier is in its third location. It's always been in Dutchess County, New York. It started in 1972, and it still has the same owner. It's one of the longest continuous running venues in the country by one owner. So Phil
wow.
Saganer has owned this place for 49 years. We got 50th coming up next year. And
Wow.
so he's now in Beacon, New York. He started in another town, went to one other town, and now he's in his final destination, I am
So
sure.
I probably played in another
Yes.
in another version
Yes.
of it.
When you see
'Cause
this,
it would
you'll
have been 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, it was probably, my guess is you probably were in Beekman or maybe in Pauling. But
Pauling sounds familiar.
Yep.
Yeah, it was definitely Pauling.
He was there for 22
I was thinking
years.
it was in Pauling. I was like, God, I don't remember it being in Beacon, but
No,
then Beacon wasn't cool back then.
Yeah, well,
Now
Beacon's
it is, and
super
that's
cool.
why I've heard of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, Beacon
Beacon's
got
super
really cool.
Yeah, and Town Crier is a really cool place. Great sound, and you must have dessert. I don't even care about the dinner's great. It's fine. It's wonderful,
really?
but don't leave there without having dessert. So Mary
Really?
Saganer is like this renowned pastry chef that worked in all these fancy places in New York City, and she makes like the best desserts you may have ever had in your life. So,
thanks for the tip.
yeah, please save yourself for dessert. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. But it's a really cool place. And Saturday, September 4th, you're going to be at Town Crier. I do want to tell people we are going to do a pair of ticket giveaways. And I also just want to alert people that COVID-19 policies are now in effect here in the Hudson Valley in all our mid-size area venues. So before you go buy tickets, make sure you know what you're doing and don't be surprised because the Town Crier is going to require a proof of vaccination, and they also encourage mask wearing indoors except for when dining. The staff is going to wear masks, so they're being really safe. So Town Crier in Beacon. Now, tell me about, you're also there with Maya Sharp. So tell me about the two of you here together on this show. Have you performed with her before?
Maya Sharp is almost like a mythical figure. I think I met her once at like a South by Southwest or something, and she came up at the same time I did, but she was in LA and I was in New York, and we kind of were fans of each other's music, like in the days before internet, so we couldn't even have and cell phones. We didn't really have like any kind of friendship or relationship. We just know a lot of the same people, and every time like I hear her name, I'm like, oh, Maya Sharp. And I think I have a feeling every time like Maya hears my name, because I hear people saying that we talk about each other.
Aww.
And so we haven't seen each other in like decades, and I get to see what she's kind of where she's been all this time. She's an amazing writer. She's written some really, really beautiful songs.
And the two of you are on this bill together on September 4th, which of course is Labor Day weekend. So how much fun to go see this. And how did you guys hook up for this show? That's like so great. She was available. You're available.
I have no idea. Right. Like somebody asked, or you know what? I think Maya is now working with my agent.
I got it.
I think there's something like that happening, which is great. It means I'll get thrown on more shows with her.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun when the two of you are you going to perform anything together, or you haven't thought that far yet?
We don't really know each other that well personally. Like,
yeah.
We know we're Facebook friends. You know what I mean?
Right.
Pretty
right.
much.
Right.
So I don't know, but I'm super excited to get to know her because, and also, I just, at this point, any woman in particular, but anybody who has been doing this for about the same length of time that I've been doing this and is still doing this, like we're all, no matter, even if we were younger, some people you might feel competitive with when you're in the same genre, especially when your outlets are so few and limited when you're a woman back then, especially. We tended to be a little competitive with one another, and any woman I meet now who's in the game is my sister.
Oh, that's awesome! That's awesome. How has it changed? Because you've been doing
this. We won. We won the whole game.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you've been doing this for decades. Obviously, this is what you do. How has it changed over the last few decades as far as being a woman in the music industry?
Oh boy. That's a big question.
Yeah.
That's a very long answer. I don't want to get into that much, but or I probably shouldn't get into that much. But there was, the music industry was a lot easier and a lot harder in all ways back then. Like it was a lot like if I used to just get gigs because I would call up a club from in the middle of nowhere in, wherever that I've never been before, somewhere in upstate New York or, in Indiana, or I'd route through Asheville. I'd be like, oh, I never paid it. And I would just call the club and I would talk to the guy who booked it and tell him that I just finished opening up 10 dates for Richie Havens and I'm a songwriter in New York, and he would book me a gig without me mailing anything in.
Wow.
There were just not that many of us, and being from New York or LA or Nashville was a kind of cachet. And, and if you could afford to make merchandise, if you made CD, cassettes and then CDs, people actually bought them. And so you could, make a living.
Right.
I know it's really novel to young songwriters.
Right. Yeah, sure.
But people used to pay for your music. It's crazy. You worked really hard to make this thing, and people then actually bought it with cash, and you could pay your bills. It was really a wonderful system. And I miss it terribly.
Oh, how times have changed.
But and somebody could be small, you know what I mean? Like there were there's a lot more people kind of trying to make things happen for themselves because the avenues have widened, there's a million entry levels and, in the form of zeros and ones on the internet and stuff.
Right.
But there's fewer avenues to play, and there's less in revenue streams to be made. So it's just, you can make a record in your living room. It used to be a lot to make a record.
Sure.
It was a big deal.
Right.
And now getting played on the radio isn't as important or as influential as it was back then because it's, people are streaming a lot, and, the terrestrial radio is not quite the power that it was, nor is TV.
Right.
And even though there were gatekeepers to that, there were fewer people making music. So, I feel sorry for a 20-year-old songwriter that doesn't have a management team sending something to a radio station now.
Right.
I feel even more sorry for the person who has to go through a massive slush pile of email MP3s. Sure. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it made their, like it used to be, they'd get 20, 30, 40, submissions a month, and now it's probably like 40 an hour.
Yeah, geez, yeah. Man, oh man, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes and where it's going to be in like 10 years, It's just... It's fascinating. I feel like it's changing so fast. Because I put out a record every 3 years or so, almost every time I put out a record, there's a new paradigm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like the first two records I put out were on cassette, and then you had to be on CD to be taken seriously.
Right.
And then by the time I made my next record, downloads were a thing. And iTunes was a thing, but so was piracy. So that kind of took a hit, and then it kind of worked all our way to streaming, and vinyl is back, of course.
Yes.
But vinyl's a mixed bag for a lot of artists. It's, depends on who your following is and how much traveling you have to do in a hot car, bringing, and how much support staff you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, they're heavy. Like they're really cool, but vinyl's very heavy, and you have to bring it in out of the hot car.
I've seen a few musicians come out with cassettes again. I don't even know that people have cassette
so weird.
players, but I'm seeing cassettes again, and I'm like, what?
No.
I
know.
I'll stick with the CDs. I am a CD girl. I don't do the Spotify. I don't do it. I just like my CDs. But that's going to be hard to find also. So Dayna, what I want to do is just tell people, again, you're coming to Beacon. DaynaKurtz.com is your website. You also have an official Facebook page where people can keep up with your travels and your music and your career, which is, I can't recommend seeing you live. You are a captivating performer, and it's just a really Great show. I think I've seen you 2 or 3 times, and I've thoroughly enjoyed every single note I've heard you. Your voice is completely captivating and enticing and just really lovely, just beautiful. You bring it on, you're real, and you just always you have great people play with you, and it's a really cool thing. So Dayna Kurtz,
you're kind. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Thank you. And you'll be here in our Hudson Valley in Beacon at the Town Crier on September 4th. Do you have any other dates coming up?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. Apparently, there's still a pandemic on.
Yeah. Making a comeback.
I'll probably start working again out of New Orleans when I get down there in the fall. But right now, I'm being a farmer.
All right.
Being a garlic farmer.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm going to play some of your music. I'm going to give away a pair of tickets to your show at the Town Crier on September 4th. And I'll just say thank you for your time. I'm going to play, tell me about this. It's How You Hold Me.
Oh, that's a love song that I wrote for my now husband.
Oh, that's so lovely. Oh, nice. Well, that's what we're going to listen to. I just thank you so much for your time. DaynaKurtz.com, and we'll do some tickets and just have fun at the Town Crier. Don't forget to have dessert. And
thanks for that tip. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I often skip dessert, so it's good.
Yeah,
to know
skip your meal. Skip your meal and start with dessert, and then have your meal. Trust me on this one. It's a good one.
I trust you.
All right, awesome. Okay. Dayna, thanks for your time today, and stay safe out there.
Thank you. You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
91.3 WVKR, 5:48 p.m. That was Dayna Kurtz, who will be performing on Saturday of Labor Day weekend, which happens to be September 4th at 8 p.m. Double bill with Maya Sharp. And you're going to get a pair of tickets if you'd like to call in. And you'll get tickets. You'll get tickets. You and a guest can spend a beautiful, lovely evening at the legendary Town Crier Cafe on Main Street in Beacon, Saturday, September 4th. The show is 8 o'clock. If you give a call here to the station now, the phone number here is 845-437-7178. You and a friend are going to go check out Dayna Kurtz. The Town Crier does have a COVID-19 policy. Proof of vaccination is required, and you will need to be 21 years old or older. And they do also encourage mask wearing indoors. The staff will wear masks, but proof of vaccination is a must. And if you'd like to go, see Dayna Kurtz Saturday, September 4th. Just be the lucky caller here at 845-437-7178. I promise she is a great, great voice. Let's take a listen to a track of Dayna Kurtz's right now. And if you'd like to go see her perform at Town Crier September 4th at 8 p.m., you can give me a call here, 845-437-7178. Let's take a listen to Dayna Kurtz right here, right now on 91.3 WVKR. And the number again, 845-437-7178. Pair of tickets to check out Dayna Kurtz. .3 WVKR. Let's try this again. All right, so that's not working. Let's try a different mode, and I'm going to try it now. And again, if you want tickets and you want to go check out Dayna Kurtz, give us a call right here, right now. Her show is on Saturday, September 4th, Town Crier in Beacon. You can give me a call at 845-437-7178. Let's take a listen right here, right now. This is Dayna Kurtz with It's How You Hold Me, 91.3.
When we dance, that's when I remember all the ways you can spin me round. ground. It's not your skill or your style or your gaze or your smile. It's how you hold me, how you're holding me now. You hold me strong and tender, like it would hurt you to let me fall down. Like I'm precious and wild, like I'm a newborn child. It's how you hold me, how you're holding me now. And when I'm blue, that's when I remember to be grateful for what I found. Though your words, God, they move me, they comfort and soothe. It's how you hold me, how you're holding me now. You hold me strong and tender, like it would hurt you to let me fall down. Like I'm precious and wild, like I'm a newborn child. It's how you hold me, how you're holding me now. That's when I remember that we're dancing on God's holy ground. More than your body's fine grace or your beautiful face. It's how you hold me, how you're holding me now. Like it would hurt you to let me fall down. Like I'm precious and wild, like I'm a newborn child. It's how you hold me, how you're holding me now. It's how you hold me, how you're holding me now.
91.3 WVKR, the lovely voice of Ms. Dayna Kurtz. Thank you so much for your time with me today, Dayna. Really enjoyed talking with you. We just heard the song, It's How You Hold Me. And as she noted, that was written for her husband. So beautiful song. Want to also congratulate John, the lucky winner of a pair of tickets to go see Dayna Kurtz on Saturday, September 4th at the legendary Town Crier in Beacon, New York. Tickets available by visiting towncrier.com. So Dayna Kurtz will be there Saturday of Labor Day weekend, which happens to be September 4th. We got Dr. J in the house. I will be back next week, every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. If you missed part of my interview with Dayna and want to hear it again, you can check out the YouTube channel and also my Facebook page, LocalMotion on 91.3. Next week, Mike and Ruthie from the Mammals will be my guests. We'll be talking about the summer